Right then, welcome to video tutorial number 2. If you haven't watched the first one, I'd strongly recommend that you do so now before you go any further, because that gets you to this stage. We got the new demo map or starter map downloaded into our mods folder. This is it here, and we changed the map i3D file to map01 and one or two other bits and pieces. We've got the editor ready for editing as well. So if you haven't done that or got to this stage, then if you just have a quick look at video tutorial number 1, it'll get you to this stage. Now, this starter map is just the default map, but it's all flattened out. All the terrain's flattened out. The important buildings are all here with the triggers available to be moved. The cow zone's over there, the sheep zone's over there, and the main farm here with the chickens in the middle. If you can't see the zones, like for example the cow zone, if you can't see it blue, go up to View, Show, and then tick Navigation Meshes, and it'll come up on the screen blue, so you can see where they are. Also, moving around the map here, you can see I can do it fairly quickly. This confuses some people. Down at the bottom here, nav speed is set for 146. Just press the plus or minus key to adjust that to whatever you find suitable. I always have it around about 140, and it's quite quick. Difficult to get used to sometimes because it's so quick, but right, all we're doing in this tutorial is we're going to move all 3 zones: the cow zone, sheep zone, and chicken zone. We're going to do it close to the farm here. We'll just keep it nice and simple. We'll put the cow zone over here. So first thing we've got to do is move the actual zone. Now, a few important things to remember. You must delete or get rid of the zone where it is at the moment and then recreate it somewhere else. You can't. It's not just a case of making a new one. We've got to adjust the one we've got. In the terrain editing, I've got the brush type is round. Right hand mouse button is for sub, which is subtract. So if you have yours the same, it'll help. We want to select the cow zone because this is cow zone we're going to move. Select the cow nav mesh. That's in the scenic graph here. Select the cow nav mesh. I'm working with quite a small screen here, so for the video it's a bit tricky for me this. But now then, up the top here we need to go into the terrain info layer paint mode. When you do that, you'll notice everything else will go quite dark. It lets you see the zone that much easier. Very important now, down here you'll see the info channels. 0 is for cows, 1 is for sheep, and 2 is for chickens. If you have anything selected that you don't need selected, it will mess up terribly. So we're doing the cows, so we want 0 under info layers, info channel 0. Now, just increase the size of the brush. We're going to delete all this white area here. But you also remember in the cow zone here that it comes into this shed, this barn here. So we'll start there, make sure that's all gone. Using the right hand mouse button, just delete all of the white stuff. If you leave any of that white stuff behind, it will not work properly. So just make sure. That's why I use a big brush and go over the whole thing. That blue colour will stay there until we've recreated it, but that's fine. Now we're going to recreate the cows alongside the farm here. And we'll just do it here. Reduce the size of the brush. Now use the left hand mouse button to paint down the new area where we want our cows to be. So we're just going to paint a rectangular field next to the farm there. That's where the mesh was, and this is where the new one's going to be. Now, a few important things to do before we can get this to work. First of all, in the cow nav mesh, we need to recreate the mesh here. So go to Create in the menu at the top, select Navigation Mesh. Now don't just go ahead and click on any of these buttons at the bottom. We've got to make some changes. Most of these things you can leave well alone, but radius you must change for cows, which is what we're doing, and we need to change that to 1.2. What that does is gives it the gap around the edges to stop the cows going right to the edge. It just gives that little border around it. Cows need 1.2. This little box with the 3 dots in, very important, click that and you'll see all these numbers are ticked. Click clear to get rid of them all, and then just 0 for cows. If we were doing sheep it'd be 1, chickens 2, but we're doing cows so it's 0. Same with this box here, click it, make sure 0 is the only one selected and none of the others. Don't need to change anything else, that's a little bit more specialist, we don't need them at this stage. Click Recreate. Do not click Create. Click Recreate because you're recreating the mesh from where it was to here. There is no instance yet that I've come across that you need to click Create. Ignore that button. It doesn't exist. Always use Create. So we've done that, and that's our cow nav mesh. Now we're going to do the same with our sheep. So we go up to the scenery graph here, we select sheep husbandry, sheep nav mesh. It must be highlighted here in the scenery graph. We're still in this mode here, but we need to change our info layer now from 0 to 1. Now you'll know when you've got it right because as soon as I move over onto the screen it should all turn white, which it did. If I'd had 0 and 1 selected, it doesn't turn white. So that's a good check. If that's not turning white when you're going to remove it, you know you've got it wrong. Again, big brush, go over it, make sure the whole lot is gone, all the white stuff. Give it a good going over with the brush. Any white stuff left, it will not work properly. Okay, so we're going to put our sheep. Let's think. A smaller brush. We'll put a wee sheep field here. The sheep are not very big, so you can be as creative as you want for these fields. Obviously, I'm just doing it quickly. Then we go to Create again, Navigation Mesh. This time our radius we need to change for sheep to 0.7, which puts the border around the edge for sheep. They don't need quite so much. Click on the wee box, clear, 1 for sheep this time. The other wee box, just the 2 boxes we need to change, clear, select 1 for sheep, click OK. And then of course Create, forget it, doesn't exist. We click Recreate. We've recreated the nav mesh and there it is with the white border all the way around it. Now we're going to do the same with the chickens. So we'll go up into chicken husbandry, click on the chicken nav mesh. It's not turned white, obviously, because we haven't changed it down here yet. 0 is cows, 1 is sheep, so we untick 1 and click 2. And then increase the brush size, go over the nav mesh, and then we can paint down where we want our chickens to be. Let's put them somewhere where we can see them when we go in the game to test. We'll just paint them as if they're walking around the farm in this bit here. Chickens got more room than the sheep. So then back up to Create, Navigation Mesh. This time we want the chickens, the radius, they don't need a lot of room, so it's 0.15. Just make a note of these numbers, you can use them again. Clear, number 2 for chickens. Click OK. In the box again, on the bottom one, clear, number 2 for chickens. Click OK, and then Recreate. We click on that, and that's looking quite good. Now just a little sideline here. We'll go out of this mode. You'll see the 3 meshes there. Say for example we want to put this building in the middle of the mesh. Any mesh it would work for. We'll do it with the chickens. obviously we wouldn't put the building here. This is just an example. At the moment the chickens would either bump into that shed or they would walk right through it, so it wouldn't look very good. So what we do is, we've got it highlighted, we go up here to, in the attributes window, to shape, and then we click on this little white box again with the three buttons, three dots. Click clear, and then we're on the sheep mesh we want it, so we click number 2, click OK. That tells the program now that when the mesh is recreated again, which we'll do now, then it's recreated bearing in mind that that building is there. Oh dear, where is it? We want the chicken nav mesh. We're going to the mode, make sure we have chickens down here selected, number 2, yes, create navigation mesh. You need to check again, even though we're not changing anything to do with the mesh, you need to check that things are different, because if we'd gone into another zone and then come back and done this, these numbers would already change back again, so we need to check each time that we've got it right. Radius is 0.15, check in there that it's number 2 to be sure, click. Because if this doesn't work properly, if it's not done correctly, it can cause a lot of problems and nothing will work properly. So we've made the changes, we click recreate, and you'll see that the nav mesh is now got a border around about the building, and that will stop the chickens bumping into it or walking through it. Now, we'll just click on save, and then we'll go into the game, and I'm going to do this in real time, so just bear with me. We'll go into the game and we'll just check that everything's working fine. So just, there we go, center it properly, blank flat map. Now in another tutorial I'll tell you how to change these pictures here, this text here, and you can have all this ready for your own map for when it's going to be released, and it'll give people information about the map and some nice little pictures. So that will be covered in one of the tutorials eventually. Right, okay, so let's just run over here, and we put now which order did we do it in? Cow mesh there, was it? And sheep mesh was over here. Let's just stand on this little hill here. There's that the little farm we did. We know the chicken mesh is working correctly in some respects, because there's our little cockerel walking about in the new area. So I've got the little money cheap mode here, which we'll need just to test this out. So we'll get some money and we'll go in, buy some animals. We'll just buy sort of 20 of each, 20 or so. And then we should see, oh, what a noise. It's quite real, that. And there we have our cows, we have our sheep, and we have our chickens all walking about quite happily. Now obviously with the chickens we didn't move the eggs, so we won't get eggs showing here. That's a bit more advanced than what we've done today. But our cows seem to be walking around quite happily, they're not getting stuck anywhere. And the same with the sheep. So that's more or less our tutorial for this one. In tutorial 3, we'll do a little bit more with the cow zones or the sheep zone. A little bit more specialist stuff. We'll move some eggs maybe so that they work correctly. Do one or two other things, and then we'll also, if you see the field over here, it's got the buy icon on it. I'll show you how to set that on a new field and set the price and the size of the field. And we'll do all that, paint some fields down. So that's tutorial number 3, which will follow after. So I'll leave you with a wonderful sunrise, and I'll see you in tutorial number 3. Thank you for watching.